Ernesto, right? Oh, he's here. Okay.
He's just hiding under his hat.
That would have hurt.
All right, today's October 9th, 2014, and it's our first trial here in Utopia, our first real trial. I know we did a mock trial, and there was a bit of levity to it. Unfortunately, not a week went by, and now we have a real trial, our first trial. I just want to say one thing. I think it takes a lot of courage to be where we are right now. We're a brand new society. We didn't have rules or structure, and inevitably issues arise, and we have to kind of come up with a way to deal with them. I put this into effect as an attempt to adjudicate issues and to resolve conflict. Well, not even to resolve conflict, but just to put it on record and to try to straighten out the facts from the fraud and fiction. It's not necessarily a full court, but I tried to set up rules to make it a fair court. And I don't know, we'll see what happens. I think part of starting our own society is figuring things out. There's probably a lot of law professors, judges, practitioners, and lawyers, and people that watch Law and Order who are going to find error with this proceeding, but I'm pretty impressed that we're at least sitting here right now trying to come to some truth about our organization and our group. Like I said before, in the system on the outside of these gates, it's bifurcated into civil and criminal proceedings. Criminal proceedings are prosecuted by the government. Civil proceedings are lawsuits that a plaintiff brings against another party, usually because of alleged wrongdoing. Here, I didn't think we had the energy or the objectivity to have a government that's separate enough to have a criminal proceeding. So for now, anyway, until we come up with a better solution, I just, whoever files the complaint against the alleged wrongdoer brings that person to trial. I offered both Aaron and Josh the opportunity to find counsel. Josh did try to find somebody, however, she declined and said she couldn't do it because she was in close enough proximity to the events that she didn't feel she could be objective. Ernesto is usually the Tina Cece here, the judge. You guys elected him because of certain qualities and characteristics. However, he was in the middle, not to say he was a party to this, but he was right in the kitchen when this situation went down. So Aaron and Josh are going to be each representing themselves pro se in this proceeding, meaning themselves. There's like an adage that says a person who represents himself in court has an ass of a client or something like that. I think it takes a lot of courage where you guys are right now. It's a heck of a lot better than things having escalated into a bigger conflict, and I'm proud of both of you. So whatever happens here, I feel like we've already succeeded as a group. So, Josh brought charges 2 days ago. I don't have them with me, but basically he alleged that Aaron stole his mayonnaise. I'm trying not. Sorry. I'm trying to keep this somber. Once we read the charges, it's hard not to. Josh brought this complaint to us that he accused Aaron of stealing his mayonnaise and finishing it. In the course of that conversation, when he confronted Aaron, Josh alleged that Aaron threatened him with violence. From the time we started, there was real violence, and there has been violence here, and our community found it necessary to create a rule that it would prohibit violence and the threats of violence. At the time, sort of having a legal background, I thought, oh great, what's that going to do? It doesn't really mean anything to me. Part of, in our custom anyway, in the United States, part of having a judicial system is to have events happen, bring them to court, find a claim against somebody, and as we go through them, we learn like all these things happen, and we more narrowly or broadly define that rule. So to say that the rule is threats of violence are wrong here is very general. What does that mean? What are the exceptions? When there is a crime or a claim made against somebody, we try to come up with a definition. And I did some research with the limited research opportunities I had here. A lawyer doesn't really actually know anything. They just know how to research. And my hands were kind of tied behind my back given what we had here. But I came up with this definition for threat of violence. A credible threat of unlawful injury to any person or damage to that person's property which is communicated to that person. So it means that the threat has to be credible, it has to be real, and the communication has to be made. As we go through this and we have witnesses come up and talk, I want the counsel to think about some particular elements to this crime. First of all, you have to establish that the statement was made, that there was a statement made, that a communication happened. Next, you have to establish, was the threat credible? Was it able to be carried out at that point? And when that threat was made, would it be able to be carried, would the bodily injury, the threat of violence, be able to be carried out right then? So, for example, if I yelled, "I'm going to kill you, Aaron," but I was way down there and Aaron was up here and he never heard me, it wouldn't really be a threat of violence because nobody heard me. It's kind of that perennial question about hearing a tree fall in the woods. It has to be credible and it has to actually happen. Next, did the person who the threat was made at, did they have a reasonable fear for their own safety or for their own community safety? So was it reasonable to believe that there was fear there instilled by the perpetrator? Think about the gravity of the statements made and again, was there an ability to actually commit that violent injury? So, you know, if I walked up to Chris and I said, "Hey, Chrissy, I'm going to kick your ass," is there a reasonable fear and threat of violence? Probably not. He can tell I'm doing it in a joking manner. You, the counsel, have to sort of decide whether that threat was reasonable in this case. There's also some mitigating factors here, and I had to think about, meaning they're not necessarily total defenses, but even if these statements were made and even if there was a credible threat to injury and there was a reasonable fear, maybe it lessers the verdict or it lessers the issue. And it has to do with provocation. Typically, violence is a result of an escalation or a fight, and at some point somebody threatens somebody. So I kind of came up with the rule that provocation alone is not a justified response to threat of violence alone is not a justified response to verbal provocation, except if that person tries to withdraw, if they try to get away and the person provoking them doesn't allow them to. Also, if that person doesn't believe that they're safe and they can't withdraw. So does that make any sense to you guys?
Yeah, give an example.
Finally, if the provoker uses force, starts to punch the person in the face, whatever, then the threat of violence is okay. Also, you guys might want to decide differently. I know we established this rule, but you might want to think about after we have some witnesses and stuff, you might, and I'm not saying you should or should not, but you might want to decide that verbal threats no longer constitute a crime. People often make naked threats in the heat of a moment, and it doesn't mean that there's any intention of carrying them out. It seemed to me, and to when we created this rule, that it was a big problem here to threaten people's lives and bodily harm, but maybe you guys have changed your mind and you think it's okay now. When you're trying to listen to this evidence as it's being heard, in order to find Aaron guilty of this threat of violence crime or whatever you want to call it, there's standards of proof that have to be met. So if it's not clear that he made a statement, then that standard of proof isn't reached. If Aaron was asleep, his mouth was covered, and he didn't make the statement, then that element of the crime would never be able to be proved, and we'd have to throw the case out, and so on and so forth for the other elements. Also, think about the reasonableness of the situation, especially when it comes to did it invoke fear in Josh. So I'm just going to define reasonableness, and then we can get going. So for the definition I came up with is a reasonableness cause to believe that a person has committed the offense based on the facts, evidence, or information which appears reliable, discloses facts or circumstances which are collectively of such weight and persuasiveness as to convince a person of ordinary intelligence, reasonable people, you guys, judgment and experience, you guys, that it's reasonably likely that such an offense was committed and that such a person committed it. So keep that in mind. Now we'll just go through the procedure. We're going to have opening statements. Again, keep them brief, guys. Then Josh is going to go up, call witnesses to try to establish the elements of crime, try to prove that this happened. Aaron can cross-examine each witness. Josh will stop. Aaron can establish his defenses or the mitigating circumstances, which sort of alleviate the severity of the crime. And he can try to call witnesses to do this too. And then closing statements, 2 or 3 minutes each. And, that's just suggested, but we don't really want to be here all day. And then you guys will leave. We'll have a discussion and come up with a conclusion. I do want to say that yesterday I asked both of you guys to give me a witness list at 2 o'clock, and it was merely just to make sure that you guys wouldn't be calling the same witnesses, or there wouldn't be a conflict of, just to not screw up your cases. But since I didn't get a witness list from either of you guys, I'm just going to use my discretion and make sure witnesses aren't called back. And, you have an opportunity to ask those people questions on cross-examination, and we'll keep it, your ability to do that very broad, like give you like a wide berth to bring up stuff. Just make sure it's relevant to the case and it's not total hearsay. So again, this is a fact-finding mission. It's nothing much more than that in my mind, but it is very serious in that we really want to get rid of violence and the threat of violence in our community. So here we go. Josh, you can start with your opening statement.
All right.
Oh, one other thing, I've never seen so many people without shirts on in a court.
Or a judge with a snake shirt on.
Right. That's pretty appropriate.
All right. On October 7th, it was a Tuesday, 12 p.m., this mail was used. It's hard to tell whose that is, isn't it? This is no ordinary mail. It's special mail. It's the type of mail that'll change your life, okay? Realized it was used, found it discarded in the garbage can. And I approached Aaron about it, and some heated words ensued. And there's a little confrontation, at which point he physically threatened me. After that, more words were exchanged. I asked him if that's a threat. He said, yes, it is. And he came up to me and was poking me in the chest, saying that's what I was doing to him by talking to him, was pushing him. And then I think I walked off. That's all I got.
Thanks. Aaron?
Yatina Cece, ladies and gentlemen, the Pioneer Council. I want to start off by saying we are not here because of physical altercation, not because someone spent an obscene amount of community money, or even because someone hasn't been pulling their fair share of weight. We are here because of something that began as a genuine mistake and became an outlandish situation. The prosecutor, Josh, in this case is going to make an attempt at my character, my previous actions, and a play on words. But in this situation, he provoked a response. It is your job to see the facts and base your decision solely on those facts. We aren't talking about apples and oranges. Nope. We aren't talking about practice. Nope. We're talking about mayonnaise mayhem. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, Josh, it's your case in chief now. You can call your first witness. I don't know if they're prepared. Any information on this situation? Go ahead.
I'd like to call Ernesto to the stand.
Great. Have him remove his hat, please.
Will you please remove your hat?
Come over here and just swear him in.
Not have shirts on, but you still have to remove hats.
Well, the soles are the The eyes are the soul to the heart. I want you guys to.
Ernesto, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Proceed.
Good day, Ernesto.
Good day.
You might want to remove your hat too.
Okay.
I didn't notice it before.
Ernesto, can you recount the events of October 7th, about 12:10 approximately?
I was conversating with Bella. I think it was Nikki was there also. I heard a commotion, looking for your mayonnaise. You didn't find your mayonnaise. I think you stormed off. Came back out, you found your mayonnaise, and approached Aaron and asked him if he had used your mayonnaise. In which he said he did. He didn't know it was yours. He basically, I think he was sitting in his living quarters here, and I think at that point you were frustrated. You decided to let him know how you felt, and I believe from there it escalated. I did hear Aaron say he was sorry, in which you basically retorted, you know, it's to do. You did show him your name on the mayonnaise. It's, you know, there's a huge print where you wrote your name, and you didn't understand how someone can make that mistake.
Is that the jar?
Is that the mayonnaise you saw?
Yes, it is.
All right. Would you enter
is
that into
mayonnaise.
evidence, please? Exhibit A.
Exhibit A.
Thank you.
Afterwards, I thought it had finished. You kind of had walked off. You came back and basically told him once again how he could not see this name on the mayonnaise, where he replied he would buy you a mayonnaise. And basically it just, from there was words exchanged from you, from Aaron. I did hear Aaron threaten you. I did hear, you know, I believe it was, "I'll beat your ass." You kind of came back and asked him if that was a threat, in which he said yes. He came back at you and basically explained that by you taunting him, it felt the same way as when he approached you, he started kind of pushing you. And then you walked off. And that's basically what I remember.
No further questions.
Just one question with a long answer.
Cross-exam,
Cross-exam.
Okay. So you were there and you witnessed the entire thing when it happened, right?
I did.
Okay. So after Josh explained that he was very upset about the mayonnaise being missing, right? And you heard me say that I was sorry for the fact that I took it and that I also did not know that it was his, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What actions did Josh commit after that, after the first time?
He was frustrated. There was frustration in his voice. There was, you know, I believe at that time he walked out, kind of started walking out. And that's when I believe he just reacted, which I understand him, you know, in that way. So, yeah, he started, I guess, to, you know, just let it be known to you how he felt about you taking his mayonnaise.
I'm certain a lot of people were there, but how would you say he was letting it be known?
Well, he was really frustrated. So it was in a tone of, you know, aggressiveness.
Was there a lot of swearing involved or provoking of the
swearing.
situation?
There was swearing, yes.
Okay. And Did you recall me doing any swearing previous to the statement that was made when he came over there and he was doing that?
The first time, no, I did not.
Okay. Sure. That's all.
Thanks. Guys, just for future reference, like, you can't get into the person's mind you're thinking about. That wouldn't be real evidence. You can just say the facts. He said this, he did that. His voice raised, his voice lowered, that kind of stuff. Cool. That's all, Ernesto. Thank you. Anything else, Josh, from Ernesto?
No.
Okay, Ernesto, you can put your hat back on.
Thank you, sir.
Josh?
I'd like to call Nikki to the stand.
Typically, two witnesses don't stay for hear other witnesses' testimony, but it's a good-looking crowd. I want to keep you guys together.
Nikki, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Josh.
You look lovely this morning.
Thanks.
Objection.
I'd just like you to recap the events of October 7th, approximately 12:10 p.m., if you could, please.
I was in the kitchen with a bunch of people there. I can't remember everyone who was there. And I know it was Ernesto and Bella and maybe Amanda was there too. I can't remember. And you went and you were cooking lunch. We all were cooking lunch, actually. And you went into the fridge and I guess you were pulling stuff out. And then you were still looking. And then you were like, hey, Aaron, did you use the mayonnaise in the salad yesterday? My mayonnaise in the salad. And he said, no, I used Red's. And you were like, I guess you were still looking. And then at one point, I guess you went outside and you came back with a mayonnaise jar. You were holding it and you said, this one or something like that. It was mine. Couldn't you see my name on it? And then I guess he did. I can't remember if he apologized or not, but he was basically saying that it was a mistake in the words he was using. And then you were like, no, can't you see my name? You did have your voice raised, and I think you used the F word a few times.
What's the F word for the record, please?
I'm not sure how he used it.
We understand what it is. Go ahead.
I wasn't sure. And then you kind of, I guess, I don't know if you went to throw it back out, but you kind of walked out of the kitchen, and then you came back, and you were saying, like, do you see it? Do you see it? And you walked over to his area, like, my name's printed really big, loud and stuff, and he was, and so I didn't look over there to see what was going on. I was cooking, and then at some point, I wasn't sure if he said, like, Aaron said, I'll smack you upside the head or I'll beat your ass, or both. But it was some kind of threat of physical violence, I guess. And then you did say, is that a threat? And he said yes. And then I walked over to the garage door and I saw Aaron come up to you, and he was, touching you, not just talking to you. He was actually touching you, and you then retreated. You didn't feed into that. And so I think those are the main points. What I mean, touching, poking, pushing, whatever.
I can't ask someone's opinion on if the threat was considered real or...
Yeah, you can. In your own mind, what did the threat escalate? Was the situation escalated that the threat was imminent?
Well, it did escalate in the sense that Aaron got out of bed, then walked over to Josh and physically touched him. So was the threat of saying, I'll beat your ass or smack you upside the head, could it have been real? Of course, because next he went and actually touched him physically.
In a threatening manner?
Yeah, I guess when you poke someone, is that threatening?
That's up to the jury. That's up to,
well, that's...
people poke each other all the time. That's up to the jury.
So that's the question for the jury. If someone's poking at you after they just threaten you, do you feel like their threat is one that can actually be true or can actually happen.
No more questions. Thank you, Nikki.
Nikki,
Oh,
cross-examine?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Nikki. Josh, do you have anybody else you want to call on?
let's see. I'd like to call Amanda to the stand.
Oh, it can be 2 people?
Yeah, I never got a witness list, so
Sorry.
sorry, guys. We're going off chart here. Here, you want to?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Amanda, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
I do.
Okay, please be seated.
Now, Amanda, I want to hear from you. I'd like your point of view of the situation from after the refrigerator to when it started to escalate. What words were exchanged? What did you hear from both parties as from the fridge part forward? Were you in the kitchen that day?
I was in the kitchen.
And where were you sitting?
I was standing behind the sink, in front of the sink, I should say.
Did you have a good vantage point? Or...
I did. A great eye view.
Okay.
And I was watching.
I know you were. I know you were.
Always watching.
In your words, can you recount for the pioneers what happened from the fridge point forward after the mayo was discovered
Sure.
missing, please?
After you figured out that Aaron did in fact use your mayonnaise?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Well. Aaron admitted to using the mayonnaise. He said he did not realize it was mayonnaise. That he thought it was Red's. Josh walked outside. He got the bottle himself out of the trash or wherever he got the bottle and came back, walked over to Aaron's space, showed him the name using foul language, and showed him the black Sharpie that was used on his mayonnaise bottle. Aaron apologized, saying sorry several times, and Josh walked away. And when he walked away, he walked back out the barn doors. I'm not sure where he went. Then he came back. He still was making his food. He came back and set the mayonnaise bottle down on the counter. And after he set the mayonnaise bottle on the counter, he proceeded to ask more questions. How did you not know it wasn't mine? My name's written on it, and using more foul language. Aaron said, I already told you it was an accident, and his voice was calm. Aaron's voice was calm at that point. And Josh proceeded to ask again about how come he didn't, Aaron originally said that he looked at it and thought it was Red's. Josh said, how can you see? How did you think it was Red's if my name is written on it? And Aaron, he didn't reply to that one. And after Josh asked him for the fourth time, how come he didn't see it was his? Aaron again apologized and said that he would just buy him another one. Josh refused and said no and made a point that it wasn't okay. Then Aaron went on, or Josh went on to ask again about the mayonnaise, and in him asking, Aaron got up and went over to him and said he was provoking him. He's provoking him and when he said, he used the word provoke, so he touched Josh's body, poking him in his chest and in his arm and moving his body, and said that was provoking him. It was equivalent to Josh asking the same questions. Josh asked Aaron to stop touching him, and Aaron explained that he was trying to assimilate the same effect that Josh was doing, pretty much.
Did you hear the threat of physical violence?
Yes, he threatened that if you kept on, he was going to get up and and he used foul language, or he said he was going to hurt you. And so, yes.
At which point I asked if that was a threat.
Yes, you asked if it was a threat, and he agreed it was a threat. And when he agreed that it was a threat, he then demonstrated what you were doing to him, and that's why he threatened you.
And that's when he started poking me after the threat.
Yes.
Do you recall him saying that he rinsed the mayonnaise out with water to stretch it and use it in the salad?
Yes, that he had he said that there was only a little bit of mayonnaise left in the jar, and so he mixed it with water and put it in the salad that people were eating.
Have you ever rinsed out a mayo bottle with water? Would there be mayo still in it?
Yes, but I haven't used it after that.
See all this mayo that's still in here?
Not on the court floor, please.
Now, looks like there's mayo in there and it wasn't rinsed, so that really destroys the credibility of the defendant, doesn't it?
Objection.
I think it does.
What's your objection?
Seriously, tampering with the evidence?
Well,
Looks like there's mayo in there to me and it wasn't rinsed out.
Tampering with the evidence?
I would say it's inflammatory, maybe.
I was going to utilize that,
Yeah.
your T to CC, as evidence. Yeah, I would, grandstanding.
It destroys his credibility. It wasn't rinsed
Well,
out.
that's a conclusion the jury would make, but let's just move on, guys. No more craziness.
Okay. I would like to cross it.
Any more questions?
No more questions.
Okay, Aaron?
First, I would like to say that I will not be utilizing her as a witness to the actual accounts that happened on Tuesday, but as an expert in what her field currently is, which is behavioral specialist.
So in real world, that would never happen. You can't use somebody who's part and
Of
part.
course.
But
I can switch her up, but
I
that's
think-
what I was going to account for her to do.
Yeah, I think. Plus, you didn't give me a witness list, so you have to give notification of an expert
Well, I just
witness.
used
Yeah, I
those
didn't know if I need to know if she's being called so I can
You
prepare.
have the CPLR too, and you have all the. But there's a lot of issues at hand with this. But I think I'm going to hold you to a tight rein on this.
No problem.
Proceed, but if I tell you, move on, move on.
Can I interject something? Isn't Amanda a
Child behavioral specialist?
Yes, actually, yes.
Isn't that kind of
He would like that.
splitting hairs?
Not necessarily.
Guys, let's just hear it out, but it's going to be on a tight leash. What are your objections, just so we can note it for the record?
Well, she's a professional with children,
Okay.
which in this case they're adults acting like children,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's
that
really
an
germane
admission?
to the situation.
Okay.
I
But
was
would
not
you allow them to
notified.
proceed, or do you want
I wasn't
to
notified
not?
of any of yours either.
What's that?
Could you guys approach the bench, please?
I had no time to prepare for this.
I had equal amount of time to prepare for this.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
understand.
I need time for discovery.
You took the mayonnaise.
I
couldn't
think
actually go
the
across that.
discovery had been done. I mean, what else would you need? You had the mayonnaise and the people, but for the sake of humoring him, would you allow Amanda
Sure.
to speak this, or no? No, I mean, is it a big problem?
No.
Okay.
I'll appease the court.
Okay.
All right, real quick. I promise you. Just guidelines. Can you say for everybody what it is that you do for a living?
I'm a behavior specialist.
Okay. Is it
Children
safe to
behavioral
say?
specialist?
Josh, you'll have a chance to rebut and cross-examine.
Is it safe to say that you've been around a fair share of temper tantrums before?
Correct.
Okay. Is it your professional opinion that in this incident there was some type of provocation involved?
Well, please explain.
With myself and the prosecutor, do you feel as though in most incidents of behavioral issues, there's usually someone who provokes the other if they're in a timid situation, such as me laying down on my bed and having someone come up to you and badger you?
Well, being provoked is one thing, but when it typically there's an underlining issue when being provoked. So whatever your stress level is, or your provoked level, people have different levels, and it's typically based off of what you've been through beforehand. So if Josh and yourself had anything prior to, it would intensify the provoked reaction, if that makes sense. Okay.
Okay. Now, in a typical situation where there is an argument between two people that you've worked with previous to this, what would be the first thing that you would recommend doing in the situation?
What do you mean by what?
In that situation, to find a resolution, what would you do?
Well, a resolution is between two people, not just one. So it's an agreement, and it comes from both parties. So one person can make a suggestion, but the other either has to agree or add stipulations to that agreement as well. It can't be one party. It has to be two. If there's conflict.
And do you feel as though I, in that situation, tried to find some underlying agreement between the two of us?
I believe you tried to find an agreement. However, you didn't add his opinion into it. So you could have said Josh, or someone, if you have an issue, you would say, well, what can I do to make it better? Or you ask leading questions so you can come up with an agreement together rather than just one person making that final say. Because that your agreement may not, or a person's agreement may not be what that person has in mind, and it may not be considered fair or equal value of whatever the issue is.
Okay. And two more questions here. I'm sorry. Would you consider the act of provoking something that a bully would do?
Bullies typically provoke people.
And is there two forms of bullying? To my knowledge, there's plenty, but aren't two forms of bullying verbal and physical?
Correct.
Okay. That's all.
I got a question.
Josh, yeah.
Amanda, in your line of work, working with children,
You just stepped on your. Oh no, you didn't.
no, I didn't. I'm watching that. Do you condone, when the kids are having an issue, an altercation, is physical violence ever acceptable?
It's never acceptable. However, it happens a lot.
Is it acceptable to threaten people with physical violence
These
whatsoever?
These are personal questions.
Yes.
I don't think they're relevant to the case. If you want to use her as an expert, these are moral questions. You're asking her
in your expert
moral
opinion,
questions.
Working with children, is it taught to threaten kids with physical violence, threaten other kids?
Is it possible?
Is it taught? Is it frowned upon? Is it?
Physical violence, safety is number one in every job that you do, including being a behavior specialist. And for the record, I work with children and families. I'm just stationed at public schools. Although my focus is with children, I do work with families and the adults as well. Now, physical violence is never okay, but when there's physical violence, then someone needs to flee. Someone needs to walk away or call for help. If you feel, not you, but if someone feels threatened or that their life is in danger, then their duty and obligation is to walk away and seek help as number one. And number two, defend yourself if you have to. So if the action of violence is taken upon you, then you defend yourself.
If a threat was made at a household that you were working with the children in the family, what would you do if a parent threatened one of the children?
If a parent or a child threatened either or, then authorities would have to be involved, i.e. CPS or the police or a social worker, a third party to mediate the situation and keep the two parties apart.
Are all threats taken serious?
All threats are always taken serious, no matter how big or small.
No further questions.
Okay, is that it from me? Or do you want to
Reapproach.
rebut or?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. And then we're done with
Okay.
Amanda.
Sorry.
Just two questions for you.
Okay.
All threats are taken serious, like you said.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay. But then my question becomes, if you or a person truly feels threatened by a statement or by physical, would they persist in pushing or provoking a situation? Can you, let me rephrase that. Can you adequately say that a person feels threatened by a statement if they, after the threat is made, continue to pursue that person?
Yes and no. It depends on the person and their life experiences. So if you've been threatened before in your past and acts of violence have occurred from you being threatened, then typically you'll walk away or seek help a lot faster than what you would do if that never happened to you before. Now, if you are used to not getting threatened or having people threaten you, and they don't do anything, or it's a rare case that someone actually reacts, then you're more prone to stay and wait. You kind of learn. It's kind of learned behavior. So if you know what typically happens next, then you stay there or you flee.
But would you continue to provoke the situation?
It depends on the person.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Aaron, yeah, you're great. Thank you. Aaron, do you want to call anybody else?
I just have one more person to call.
Sure.
Can I call Bella to the stand, please?
Bella? Would you just wave her in?
Hello. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
How you doing today, Bella?
Good, Aaron. How are you?
Were you there to witness all the accounts that happened on Tuesday,
Yes.
12:10-ish?
Yes, I was. I was present.
Okay, can you account for those things that happened, please?
Yes, I was having lunch, and Nikki, Ernesto, and Dedica was in the other area together, and I saw Josh come into prayer. Well, he opened the refrigerator door, looked around, closed the refrigerator door, called out for you and asked if you used his mayonnaise in the coleslaw that you had made a couple nights before, the night before. And you said, no, I used Red's mayonnaise. And he slammed the door to the refrigerator, stormed outside, came back in with a jar of mayonnaise and showed it to all of us. It had your name on it, his name on it. And he said, you were laying in your bed in another room, and he said, this is my mayonnaise, you used my mayonnaise, and you apologized and said, I'm sorry, I did not know it was yours, I thought it was Red's. And Josh continued to ask you, well, how can you know it's not mine if I have my name on it? This is clearly written. He showed it to us again, and he was, to me, visibly upset, and he continued to repeatedly, probably 6 or 7 times, asking you, how can you do this? Just repeating himself, and he was getting more and more escalated. And you...
was there vulgar language used?
Yes, there was vulgar language used.
Did at any point in time, prior to me making that one statement, did you hear me escalate my voice or use any type of profound language?
No, your voice sounded calm and very pointed, and you just making clear statements to make sure that he heard you say, I will buy you another mayonnaise, Josh. I apologize, I didn't know it was yours. I will buy you another mayonnaise. You kept very calm, even though he continued to escalate. And then, at which point, I heard you say, from your bed, you said, people who keep pushing people like this get their ass beat, Josh. I did not hear you say, I'm going to kick your ass. I heard you say, people who behave like this and continually push get their ass beat. He said, oh, is that a threat? And I heard you say, yes, it is a threat. And then you got up and came into the kitchen and to show him what it's like. And you didn't point like this. You used all your fingers like this, and we're pushing at this section here. Not above the chest, but right here. Pushing like this. Gently, but not like you were beating him. You know, it was gently, just showing him this is what it feels like. And when you continually push and badger, do you understand what this feels like? And then Josh walked out.
No further questions.
So,
thank you.
Thanks. Josh, any questions?
Yeah. I'm going to go off topic here a little bit.
Well,
Bella's, how long have you been here in Utopia?
same time.
Everybody has been, right? At the beginning?
42 days, thank you.
I just want to show the court a history of threats for the defendant
Can't.
which is common knowledge. He's been in other incidents with other utopians here.
Can't bring it in. It'll taint the procedure. I mean, we haven't had like a formal process. There's no real records or anything. It's going to be not exactly objective, and I'm worried that.
He's been charged in there.
Well, we don't know about any of that,
All right.
so I just don't want to bring in a
I
past
object.
bad behavior, alleged past bad behavior, when we don't have it on record or anything. It'll taint the evidence, but maybe you can come up with a creative way to express your point. I don't know what your point is.
Have you ever seen Aaron in heated arguments with other utopians in the past that could have turned into physical altercations?
Objection. Could have.
Yeah, I think it's speculative.
I'm trying to show a history here.
Yeah,
it's not really
it's a
accountable.
timeline.
Did you see the
fine
altercation
line.
between him and Red?
Yes.
Yes. Was that very escalated?
They were both escalated.
All right, guys, this isn't
I would
really
say
relevant.
this has nothing to do
was-
with this
Yeah.
case.
Just trying to show a history of the
Yeah, you
defendant's
can't.
aggression.
You can't. Not where we're
Okay,
at.
no further questions.
Okay, cool. Bella, thank you very much. As always, you're a great witness. And do you have anybody else to call, Aaron?
I am. Rest my case.
Okay, guys. So closing arguments, 2-3 minutes max. Just a quick statement if you want, Josh, and then Aaron, and then you guys will disappear, and we'll finish this kangaroo court.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the Pioneer Council, through multiple witnesses, I've shown you that this gentleman has made the threat. When asked if that was a threat, he said, yes, it is. So you have to take it at his word. I've already destroyed his credibility with the mayo. There's mayo in there. He didn't do what he said he did. So that destroys all of his credibility, in my opinion.
Conclusions.
You can be the judge of that. We did say when we made this rule, this is a utopian, it's a cardinal rule, that whoever breaks that needs to leave. Now, I don't think that's appropriate in this case. Yes, it was a heated argument. Is physical violence ever appropriate in an argument if they're not being approached or they're in their space? Absolutely not. And to come up to me afterwards and push me could have exacerbated the situation and could have turned very ugly at that point when someone gets in somebody's space. This is a serious thing. In my utopia, we don't threaten anybody, no matter what's said. We all need to feel safe here. And this is a serious offense. Does he need to leave? I don't think so. However, there needs to be a punishment that fits it. I rest my case.
Thank you.
I am really typing everything, to be honest.
Okay.
All right. I don't think Josh is a bad guy. Personally, I don't think anybody here is a bad person. I feel as though a few people have seen me say it, even since the incident on Tuesday, that I still don't hold any grudges against the prosecutor, even though he's bringing this case up. As you guys know, and the witnesses have accounted, I apologized numerous amounts of times. I offered to buy another mayonnaise, even though he says that I did not do what I actually did. I'm far past that. I tried to come up with a resolve. It was not met, and the way that it was met was by more verbal provocation, okay? Should someone be able to threaten violence in response to a verbal provocation alone? That's a question that he wrote. I don't think that is right. We agreed upon that when we first came here. There will be no verbal threats or physical threats whatsoever. I agree. But when in the heat of the moment, you can't always account for a person's actions, especially when they're verbal and not physical. Would you really say that somebody felt physically threatened by you and still get in their face and still push them? But to say that you were the one that's physically threatened, I don't think I would. If a guy was standing in front of me and I have a gun in my hand and he tells me he's gonna kick my ASS and he's got a grenade launcher, am I gonna walk away or am I gonna come back at him with the same gun? probably going to go away. I'm a little bit more afraid. Now I feel threatened. Me laying down in my bed, talking at a calm voice, apologizing numerous amounts of times to this guy, I don't think that was a credible threat. Wouldn't it be considered bullying verbally by what he did in that area? What if verbal action was only committed in the heat of the moment? As humans, we don't always think first, act later, like we say we do. Now, I do feel as though I could have handled it a lot better, but given my history, I think I handled that very well up to that point. And to close out, verbatim, he just said, this situation or any situation could have turned very ugly when someone invades someone else's personal space. Did I come to him initially, or did he come to me and provoke me in my space?
Okay, well, thank you both very much. I think now we'll just have you guys head on somewhere out of earshot. We'll have a little discussion and call you back when we're ready. Chris, can I see that?
6 pages.
All right, well, that was exhausting. So for a threat of violence, threat of force, there has to be a credible threat of unlawful injury. Basically, the threat has to be real and possible to carry out, and there also has to be this feeling that there's a reasonable fear there attached to the words. Those are really the issues I would think about. Were the words made? Is that clear? Was the threat credible? Is that clear? Was there a reasonable fear? Is that clear? And could it have been carried out? Why don't you guys have a discussion? I'll leave because I don't really want to influence. I have this list here. Don't forget about the provocation as a mitigating factor.
I know it won't make this longer, but I'd like to add another charge. If you're talking to a policeman and you go like that, you're going 2 years for assault.
That's different. So, you know, she's in a police officer. So
No.
that doesn't make
I think you should take all this into
I mean,
consideration.
it was an actual physical altercation. It wasn't just talk,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned.
And you weren't even here.
And I
All right.
wasn't there. I didn't see it, but we had credible witnesses come up and explain
Yeah.
it.
I think for the sake of, I don't know how you guys feel about.
Just mentioning it.
I don't know how you guys feel about having the witnesses give their input. It's a little weird because you're part of the same group. Decide whether you want the witnesses to talk amongst yourselves. Try to come to some conclusion, but keep in mind, like, the mitigating factors. That provocation typically isn't enough to justify a threat of violence, because after all, what we're dealing with and what we've dealt with in the past, and every threat of violence out there in the history of mankind has been as the result of a provocation of some type. However, if there's provocation and the person being provoked can't leave or something like that, then it could be an excuse. But, you know.
Does the person have to feel threatened for it to be a threat?
There has to be a reasonable fear of violence will occur, so that's up to you guys to decide whether
One of
they...
three things, if the words were said, if there was...
Oh, so was a statement made, I'm going to fuck you up, or whatever it was. You know, so that's the first one. 2, was it possible to fuck the person up in the immediate circumstance? 3, was to fuck you up a credible threat? Like, was it a real threat, or was it me saying to Chris, like, hey, I'm going to meet you in the bathroom and punch your face out?
Punch your face out.
I got your back, bro. As it always me.
So look to the gravity of the statement.
I think he thinks he can take it.
And also, was Aaron capable of committing the violent injury within that time period? So you guys can have this. It's my notes, and you know, I don't know how long. I don't think you need that long.
I mean, is it fully reasonable for us to not have the people who testified to be part of this decision-making process?
That's up to you guys. You could kick them out or keep them here.
Get out.
I mean, on the one side, like I don't feel good about like having there be less communication and less people involved. At the same time, I do feel that certain parties spoke to witnesses beforehand.
Right.
And not necessarily that I think anyone's taking sides, but I do feel that like having actual witnesses here is just going to add a little bit. I feel like
I didn't know I was going up here tonight, just so you know.
No, I understand that. I understand that. Like, completely understand that.
I think people that weren't there should decide.
But I think the people who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That sounds good.
That's fair.
That sounds fair.
I'm gonna leave too because I had a conversation with Josh and I know how he feels about all this and some behind the scenes stuff. So.
Yeah, and that's fine. And this is something that Cal brought up, why this system is can be perceived as being flawed, because we live in a tight community. There's a lot of subjectiveness to everything.
A lot of underlying stuff.
A lot of underlying stuff, and you know, there's not a impartial decision maker.
Yeah.
I don't totally agree with that, but these kind of issues are playing out. So
let's do it quick.
Yeah.
Yes. People that weren't there stay here.
Wasn't there 2 charges?
No.
Yeah, one was dropped. The stealing of the mayonnaise, I thought was
dropped.
silly.
That was dropped. Okay.
So who's left here? Like
2 people.
We're free.
you guys are left. Why don't you talk about Kristen? You can talk
Yeah.
about with them because
Myself
you
from that.
being a stunt, and you can always show them.
Really? Really?
Oh yeah.
It's not bad. You're pretty quick.
I'll start.
Shoot.
In my eyes, from the get-go, there was the initial rules. And I know you two haven't been here from the beginning, but shit was serious in the beginning. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of threats. And we made it clear that will not be tolerated. I'm looking at it straight like that. Mayonnaise was taken? Yeah. Does he know the grocery list? Yeah. Was it Red's? No. Shouldn't have been taken, and it clearly wasn't emptied. I'm saying he's guilty for that, but that's not why we're here. He is clearly guilty for having the threat. Clearly guilty. Josh might have provoked it, but there's nothing wrong with that. There's no rule here against just speaking to someone. And if I'm pissed, I'm going to let you know. And just because you're saying you're going to do something doesn't mean it's going to be right. It's still going to let you know. So in my eyes, he's guilty, and there will be a punishment. What do you guys think?
Go ahead. Well, I mean, I think it's poor choices on both sides. You know, both of them letting emotions take over them, because Josh could have made the choice to listen to AJ and listen to the apology, maybe take the offer of buying another mayonnaise and then leave it at that, but he didn't. He chose to keep heading back into it and kind of beating on him, as it were. AJ, although he did, I do commend him for handling it well for the first part, you know, definitely, especially considering all of us knowing his history, you know, that he did handle it very well. Still could have made the choice, even when Josh went into his personal space, even when Josh kept poking at him, he still could have made the choice to walk away, to just say, sorry, whatever, man, I don't know what to tell you, you know. He still had that choice to not resort to a threat. So it sucks, because I think on both sides.
Why unplug? Probably unplug.
Come on. You need it on?
You're going to eat. Plugged in.
No, it's not. I'll get it for you.
Okay,
all right?
together. Thanks. Yeah? Mm-hmm. You might have to go back in, though.
I have more stuff to tell you, that's why.
Yeah.
He's gotta have
I
to
know
tell you
that's perfect.
everything.
It's on, Bella.
Thank you, Rob.
No, that's fine. That's perfect.